Hello everyone and welcome back to another new album video. This is week 22 and this week we're taking a look at The Glow Part 2 by The Microphones. First released September 11th, 2001. Some notable tracks on this album include I Want Wind to Blow, The Moon, Headless Horseman, and Samurai Sword. This is kind of like a weird album. I was looking for a lot of lo-fi. I've been listening to some lo-fi music lately, and this album shows up in a lot of like best lo-fi albums list. Lo-fi to me splits, like I think there's like a weird kind of split where there's like lo-fi beats and then there's lo-fi music. They kind of definitely have a lot of crossover. This one has, and I definitely like the lo-fi music that has just beats and instruments. It has that, but it has lyrics as well. It's widely regarded as just one of the best lo-fi albums kind of all time. This one's been on my list to listen to for a while. I ended up not listening, and I think I've had it on my list for like a few weeks now. Ended up listening to some other lo-fi albums, and then finally kind of just took the plunge and listened to this one today and absolutely loved it. It's a great album. It's got a lot of great instrumentalization. It's got that lo-fi quality that I like, where you have like the kind of like the pop and the hiss of like records. I don't know if I'm really explaining it correctly, but on a lot of lo-fi things, you kind of have that ambient, just kind of hiss as like a record would spin, and it's not necessarily playing a track like the. I don't even know if that makes sense. But we have some notes here about the album. We're going to go through those. We'll discuss the track list and all that kind of stuff. But just to say that this album is absolutely phenomenal. Kind of wish I listened to it a little bit sooner because, like I said, it's been on my list for a few weeks. Like, it's a little too long to listen to on my commute to work. It's a little bit over an hour. But ended up just listening to it today on a walk. Basically, like, went to the coffee shop, got a coffee, listened to this on the way to the coffee shop. After I left the coffee shop, then went to a park, finished the coffee there, and just enjoyed this album. So it's very good. Let's get to our notes here about it. Let's see. So we are on week 22. There we go. So again, The Glow Part 2 by The Microphones. This is their third studio album from that band. Like I said, it's often seen on a lot of just best of lo-fi music lists. And like I said, I kind of have like this kind of distinction between lo-fi, like where it's just beats, and then lo-fi with lyrics. So I was looking for more of the beat kind of music, but this one just kept showing up on a lot of just best of lists. So like I said, decided to finally just give it a listen. I found it to be very similar, at least composition-wise, like musically and somewhat lyrically, to some of Neutral Milk Hotel's albums, like On Avery Island or The Airplane Over the Sea. They have kind of a lot of the same kind of lo-fi kind of elements. I would actually describe this more as like lo-fi folk, very similar to Neutral Milk Hotel in that way, where you have a lot of just analog instruments, a lot of like kind of like instruments that are not typically used, or in a lot of like recording techniques that are a little bit different. So like I said, similar to Neutral Milk Hotel, Phil Elverman. At least I'm gonna pop this up just so I can get to the track list. Phil. Let me see if I pronounce it correctly. Elverum. Phil Elverum is the lyricist and the primary musician on from this band, and basically did all the vocals, played most of the instruments himself. And according to my research, he wanted a more organic sound to the album, so it was actually recorded on. Let me see what it said here. Yeah, 16-track analog tape. So I think just a lot of stuff being analog kind of lends itself well to the lo-fi sound. Speaking of that, I've been messing around with. There was a Humble Bundle. I think it's still up, but for some music production software. I've been messing around with that. Actually, finally got a MIDI adapter for my Xbox 360 Rock Band keyboard. So I've been messing around with that, trying to create some kind of lo-fi beats with it to probably not to very good effect. If I ever get anything recorded on there, I'll probably upload it here. But a lot of kind of just very weird instruments that you can find on there lend themselves very well to lo-fi music. There was a lot, like I said, a lot of creative recording kind of choices here. According to the research, they want the guitars. There's like a lot of distorted guitars on this album, and some of those were achieved by plugging the guitar into like I think it was like a tape deck they got at like a thrift store, plugging the guitar into that tape deck, and then having the using the headphone jack on that tape deck to then go into their amp. The drums are also super distorted. Like Samurai Sword is just an incredible just mess of like sound. It kind of was jarring at first because like everything up to that song is kind of laid back, kind of chill. Samurai Sword is kind of just like almost like a punctuation point on the album where it's just this huge wall of sound. I'll describe that more once we actually get to the track listing. But just a lot of interesting kind of like recording techniques used to kind of achieve that sound, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Apparently, the album was inspired. A lot of the lyrics were inspired by the show Twin Peaks, so that's kind of very interesting there. And apparently, the cover art with this elephant on it is actually taken from a Dutch cookbook. I'm actually going to pop this, as probably going to mispronounce this, but it's Calvé Delifts Winterborch. Probably completely mispronouncing that name. Let me actually see here if I can find the entry. Wrong thing. There we are. There. All right. So the Dutch cookbook with this elephant artwork is called let's see, Calvé Delifts Winterbokelj. Not pronouncing that correctly, probably at all. But it's a Dutch cookbook that was in print from like 1933 to 1934, and it's just like a really cool like illustration. Um, like it just could have been maybe something they just saw this book somewhere and were like, "That's a really cool like illustration. Let's use that." But like I said, it was in print from 1933 to 1934. Just a very cool kind of cover there. Has some pretty good reviews. Let me actually pull up some of the review scores here. I think initially when it came out in 2001, the only reviews were from Pitchfork, which gave it a 9.2, and Stylus Magazine gave it an A minus. There were some more kind of retrospective reviews after the album's been out for a while. On all those retrospective reviews, AllMusic gave it a 5 out of 5. It looks like Consequence of Sound has it at a 4.5 out of 5. Looks like a 9.3 from Pitchfork. That's from I guess a re-review in 2008, so 7 years later. Didn't change a whole lot, changed by a point, so 9.2 to 9.3. Let's see here. Pop Matters gave it looks like a 9 out of 10, and Under the Radar has it at a 9 out of 10 as well. Like I said, it's kind of considered to be like a cult classic, especially in the lo-fi or like indie. I don't really like using indie as a genre, but like indie folk, kind of like a very cult classic album in that regard. We're going to go ahead and take a look at our track listing here. We're actually going to look at two track listings because I've only listened to the main album, but in 2007, let me see if it was correct. 2007, it got reissued with a second disc that included like some extra tracks, and that version is called Other Songs and Damaged Versions. So we'll look at both of those versions here. Pull down to our track list here. So Glow Part 2, it's 20 tracks with about, it's like an hour and 6 minutes in length. So we're going to start off here. So track 1 is I Want Wind to Blow. Track 2 is The Glow Part 2, so the title track for that one. Track 3 is The Moon. Track 4 is Headless Horseman. Headless Horseman is great, and also The Moon is really good as well. Let's see, track 5 is My Roots Are Strong and Deep. Track 6 is Instrumental, just literally called Instrumental. Track 7 is The Mansion. Track 8 is In Parentheses. Something, and then track 9 is also called, in parentheses, Something as well. Track 10 is I'll Not Contain You. Track 11 is The Gleam Part 2. Track 12 is Map. Track 13 is You'll Be in the Air. Track 14 is, let's see, I Want to Be Cold. Track 15 is I Am Bored. Track 16 is I Felt My Size. Track 17 is just called Instrumental. Track 18 is I Felt Your Shape. Track 19 is Samurai Sword. Like, the album is kind of, like I said, very laid back up to that point. And Samurai Sword is just this very in your face kind of super distorted Wallace sound style track. And then kind of the opposite of Samurai Sword, track 20 is My Warm Blood. And My Warm Blood is the longest track on the album. It's like 9.5 minutes, and it's very much like it's very, very mellow. Mostly you just hear kind of like the record, like a record spinning against the needle, not playing anything necessarily, like that. There's occasionally, I think there's like a faint like heartbeat on the track. There's like a few like notes here and there, but it kind of feels very much like they had like Samurai Sword was pretty much this basically explosion of sound. My Warm Blood is basically kind of like the aftermath of that, so to speak. A very interesting kind of choice there. And now we're going to look at the Other Songs and Destroyed Versions album. So part of the 2007 reissue, it included a second disc that included, and it's about 43 minutes. I need to see if that's available on Apple Music because I haven't listened to it yet, but I definitely plan on listening to that because the Glow Part 2 is just very good, very just an excellent album. So track listing on, let's see here, other songs and destroyed versions. Again, 20 tracks on that, and it's about 43 minutes in length. So track 1 on this version is Where Lies My Tarp. Track 2 is I Felt My Size, an acoustic version of that. Track 3 is I Hope You Wish You Die. Okay, track 4 is I Like You Tree. Track 5 is The Glow Part 2 Sequel. Track 6 is We're Here to Listen. Track 7 is Sleepy Hollow. Kind of like an interesting theme where Sleepy Hollow on this version and then, Headless Horseman on the other. So again, track 7 is Sleepy Hollow. Track 8 is Lanterns, or let me see. Leanderness? I'm not sure that's pronouncing that correctly. Let me just copy that into a different thing so I can at least read what it says. Yeah, Lanterns. It was just kind of like, this display doesn't always display the text correctly. Track 9 is Map/Mood. Let's see here. Track 10 is The Glow Part 2, which is called Version. Track 11 is I Want Wind to Blow Backwards. Track 12 is another version of Instrumental. Track 13 is The Mood, and that's called Version. Track 14 is Samurai Sword Version. So like some shorter versions of some of these songs. Track 15 is The Gleam Part 2 version of that. Track 16, My Roots Are Strong and Deep. Again, a shorter version of that. Track 17 is I Felt My Size, shorter version of that one. Track 18 is My Warm Blood, the humming from that, which is only like 22 seconds. Track 19 is You'll Be in the Air. And track 20 is The Mood with like 8 O's. So shorter versions of tracks. So like I said, it's other versions, basically like, they're called destroyed versions, so I'm not exactly sure what that entails. But I'm definitely going to check that out because I really like the Glow Part 2. And I'm hoping that the this other disc is available to stream on like Apple Music or something like that. Like I said, I kind of regret putting this off for it's been like a few weeks, but definitely glad I got around to listening to it because it's an excellent kind of just look at like lo-fi but also folk. Like I said, I was looking for more of like what's called like I guess classic style lo-fi, which is kind of like just like the instrumentals and the beats. There's a lot of very good lo-fi playlists on Apple Music that feature those. But the Glow Part 2, an amazing album. I highly recommend checking it out. I'm going to go back and probably at some point listen to this other disc as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again in another week with a whole new album. No idea what what that's going to be just yet. Sometimes it's like the day of I end up like listening to something that I really like. In this case, the same thing with this one. Basically, just listened to this album just today and thought it was amazing. So we'll be back again in a week with another album. But again, that's going to do it for now. So thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.